Welcome, everybody. SF Live, episode 149 with Scott Trebilcock. He's president and CEO of Core Mining. Before we switch over to him, make sure to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you hit that little notification bell as well, because we do all our interviews live. You get notified when we go live, and that is a big advantage for you as the investor. You can front run the replay heard, and you can make sure you get all the information firsthand. And of course, it is an interactive format as well. The idea is to use the YouTube chat or the Twitter hashtag function. We assigned hashtag AskCore for this conversation with Scott. Make sure to use it. We'll be monitoring it. So if you have any questions burning under your fingernails for Scott and for the company, make sure to post them either in the YouTube chat or on Twitter. And we'll have the AskCore hashtag on our conversation, or shown on during our conversation as well. So make sure you use it and make the most of the live interviews and to get the most out of it for your investment as well. Now, let me switch over to Mr. Scott Trebilcock. Scott, wonderful. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Kai. Thank you.
That's great to have you back on. I think we last chatted. It's been a while. October. It feels like yesterday, but it was more or less mid-October. You presented at SF Online Session 4. A lot of things have changed. We've grown our channel. SF Live has grown to a bigger audience. So why don't we start off with a quick introduction to Core Mining, 30, 60 seconds, and then we'll dive into a couple more specifics.
Right. Well, thanks, Kai. I'm very happy to be back. Thanks to everyone out there listening. So Core Mining is a U.S. gold explorer and developer. We've got 4 million ounces of gold defined in 2 resources, so in 2 separate projects in California. Both are simple, low capex heap leach projects. Our chief operating officer Mark Leduc led 2 preliminary economic assessments last year that show some great potential value creation. And more importantly, backed by Eric Sprott, we've gone out and staked some district scale exploration opportunities around both projects so that we can grow with the drill bit as well as de-risking the projects towards production. So I think, we're set up really well here with a high insider ownership and Eric backing the story. And we need to keep advancing and moving the story forward to try and close some of the valuation gap to our peer US gold developers.
Great. Let's start there. Actually, you brought up Eric Sprott, tight shareholdership. Let's start with the capital structures, so that we're all on the same level playing field here as well. Run us through the cap structure real quick. Main shareholders. I know you insiders own a lot of shares as well.
Correct. So Core is still effectively a very young equity. It's only been listed since late 2018, but really only has had capital since August of 2019 when Eric Sprott made his first investment. So we're still maturing the capital structure. Got about 106 million shares out. Management owns 38%. Eric Sprott has 26%. He put money in 3 separate raises in 2019 and 2020. The rest of the float, let's call it's got some reasonable liquidity, but certainly one of the things we're looking to address in 2021 is increasing the liquidity and public distribution of Core.
Okay. Inside ownership, institutional shareholders. I think you own roughly 38%. Or not you personally, but management and insiders own, I think, 38%, if I've seen that correctly. When did you acquire the shares? When did you come into the company?
So before I became CEO, at the time I bought 3% and had another couple percent as part of my compensation package when I joined. So I bought in July of 2019. And I most recently I've been blacked out a lot lately with the Karis spin out, but I think I last bought in November at $1.06. Okay. So I've been sort of picking away here as we go forward, and I have windows of both cash money myself and being off blackouts for news in the company.
Great. And to wrap the share structure and cap structure up a bit, like what's the working capital position right now, cash and other investments perhaps?
Yeah, we currently have $5 million in cash in the company. So, I think we're well positioned to keep funding our basic prospecting activities and overhead and the permitting team on the ground in California in the near term. But I think as we'll bridge into, we're permitting a lot of drill capacity, and subject to market conditions, we want to get out there and, raise some capital sometime later in 2021 to hopefully amp up the drilling if gold markets get hot.
Yeah, no, that's like you're an exploration company. I'm always surprised how people act surprised when they hear, well, we got to raise money. It's like, really, what did you expect to happen? Right? Like,
right. Exactly. I think one of the reasons Eric invested us 3 separate times was we've been very good at putting money into the ground to add value to the projects. That's, doing land deals, staking, doing good exploration work, advancing the development aspects of the two projects. I think we've been putting lots of money in the ground compared to overheads. That's a good use of capital. But on the flip side, we've been very, very chintzy about spending it because we're large shareholders ourselves in management. So continuing that philosophy and raising money as we need it to fund good work programs, I think, is the strategy of the company.
Now, the share price has been trickling down, and actually it's been selling off a bit. And I think it was like, and that's my perception, a bit more than the overall market, right? So let's maybe dive a little deeper in in finding out like what that value disconnect is. You have two projects now that are PEA stage. You're not even trading at $100 million market cap Canadian, which is translates pretty much into 80 million US dollars. You have 5 million Canadian in cash, but you recently spun out Karis Gold that you mentioned. And do you think that has to do with it? Did Karis take a lot of value away from the U.S. projects? And is that why we've seen maybe a bit of a sharper sell-off than in the other stocks during this, let's call it downturn in gold?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of a variety of things. And certainly both of those factors play in for sure. There's no doubt that Core started trading down when it went, as I think about ex-dividend, so we dividended out Karis shares to our shareholders in late January, I think was the vote. And, for the bad timing for the first time in a while for Core, we did so into a very soft market. And when you're in a not very liquid name like Core, if you get a day without a lot of buyers on the tape where retail investors are chasing the latest crypto deal or Reddit rumor, or wherever their money's going that day, Core gets chipped down. So there's no doubt that a combination of going ex-dividend Karis combined with a soft market and, because the tight share structure, liquidity cuts both ways. Yeah. When we have news, it's up like a rocket and it can also trade down. So yeah. It's a combination of those things.
Did you retain ownership? I don't know the deal terms like top of my head right now. Like, did you retain some of the ownership in Core from Karis, or was it all dividended out?
No, we dividended the entire original share structure out to the shareholders. It seemed, I don't know, it felt internally like playing games to keep. Why does Core, a U.S. gold developer, need to own shares in a company that's exploring in Canada? That's kind of just playing games. So no, there's no cross ownership. Core did retain a 1% NSR royalty across a fair bit of Karis's position in the Caribou. So that could be a potentially valuable asset, but obviously we'd look for them to make a major discovery and sell that much further down the track. So nope, we did it straight. We did it clean. Core shareholders now own Karis. We just completed our rights offering yesterday. So Karis is, well cashed up with 4 million Canadian. It's looking to time its listing with some good markets here in the next couple of months.
Great. Okay, let's wrap that part up on Karis. Let's look at the U.S. assets. You've said in a press release early February, like focus is Long Valley and Imperial. PEAs out on both projects. I'm going to leave it up to you which one you want to talk about first, but we need to dive deeper into the projects. So give us a rundown on, let's start with your favorite one. Which one is your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, my favorite has to be Imperial. I mean, Imperial is the most advanced project in the company for sure. We're really excited about two aspects at Imperial. The first is entering into the permitting process on the actual PEA mine plan that we put out last year. So the Imperial has the benefit of having a lot of technical work done by Glamis, which was a gold company that was a precursor to Goldcorp in the 1990s. They did a lot of great technical work, including installing, piezometers, which are monitoring groundwater, and a production water well, completing an EIS, a full feasibility study. So we've got a lot of work that gives us confidence the mine plan we've put forward at Imperial is the right mine to build. And we're therefore preparing our plan of operations to move the project into permitting as soon as we get our drill permits granted over the project. And then on the second value creation path is obviously exploration. We've staked 21,000 acres of district exploration that connects almost 12 million ounces of gold deposits. So, in 2021, the focus is going to be on delivering on the exploration side as we start moving into the longer term permitting story.
Okay, permitting, like California, right? Permitting, you can't ignore it. But you said you're permitting for drill permits right now. You're in that process. Like, what's the timeline on that for Imperial?
Yeah, we're expecting. So we submitted our plan of operations, I guess Q3 probably last year. We're expecting to get our drill permits in about the middle of this year. So fairly broad timeline. We are working carefully with the Bureau of Land Management, which has a local office in the county that we operate in, California. and making sure we work through that process to deliver those drill permits as efficiently as we can. We're permitting a very large program that includes greenfield exploration, resource growth, and all of the pads we would need to complete the work to support a feasibility study at Imperial, likely starting late in 2022.
Okay. I've seen you haven't put out any drill results since mid-November. Is there anything still pending? Like, and is there anything in Imperial that we're missing at this point?
Yeah, correct. So all of the drilling that Core did in 2020 was at the BC assets. So there are pending results, but those are to, let's call it, they're to Caris's credit as opposed to Core's.
Okay.
So Core is currently permitting 2 drill programs, one at Long Valley, one at Imperial.
Okay, so before we, sorry to cut you off there, I think my question was more like more Imperial focus. We'll talk about Long Valley in a second. I hate to cut you off there, but just in terms of Imperial, any other like news we can expect from the project? I mean, like, are you going to do more geophysics or anything you can do within your current permit without drilling?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we can do a lot of what's called casual use work, and that includes field mapping and sampling. So our geos are out doing a second round right now of soil and rock sampling because we found some anomalies between Imperial and Mesquite, which are 2 very significant deposits in the belt, and we're looking undercover for new deposits. We're matching that up with IP geophysics, and we put out some really good descriptions of those targets, I think, mid last week. We're generating more targets like that through that second round program and more infill IP. So I'm expecting at least 2 more targeting news releases on exploration in Imperial between now and the grant of drill permits.
Okay, that's fantastic because you said you're planning a district play. You added a lot of acres or hectares actually, hectares to the property, right?
Hectares. There's years of exploration work to go to cover all of the ground. We're focusing largely on the area right near Mesquite and the area right near Imperial because the old adage, the best place to find a deposit is next to a deposit, kind of holds
exactly.
true.
I was going to ask you what led you to sort of staking that, like what kind of information are you basing that's called the staking rush on, right?
Yeah, so the information is based largely on the view of the original owner and developer of Mesquite Goldfields and what they had staked up, and they'd flown a regional mag survey to trace the fault structures that control Mesquite over to the southeast. And that trend is actually what led them to discover Imperial and ultimately connects over to Picacho, which was being mined by Glamis in the 90s. So it's connecting up, let's call it 90s view of structural geology in Imperial County. And we jumped on the whole thing to make sure that we kept out competitors. And I think it's given the company a real true district play that should attract the interest of the mid-tiers if we can make some more discoveries.
What are property holding costs in California?
Good question off the top of my head. I mean,
sorry, didn't mean to catch you off guard there. Right? I was just wondering because you had a lot of land. I'm just wondering like what the obligations are.
I think back to our budget. Like I think to hold the 26,000 acres of ground we have at Imperial costs maybe $300,000 US a year in annual fees, and there's no work requirement. So it's just a straight claim system like in Nevada.
Okay, great. Let's wrap it up here, Imperial. So geophysics and other like basic geology work is being conducted until you get your drill permit, and you expect to drill in the summer, right?
Correct. And then after getting that as well, we'll be submitting our mine plan of operations to start the mine permitting process for the known deposit. And that'll obviously lead into a longer term value creation. Tried to unlock the value of that whatever 650 million market value we got from the PEA last year.
Fantastic. Let's Long Valley. So we talked Imperial. Let's talk Long Valley. I think there's a more near-term catalyst coming up based on your February press release. So my question now is: are we still on track or are you still on track to get the drill permit for Long Valley within the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, certainly in a matter of weeks, we are expecting to get a decision. So our regulator for Long Valley, it's on federal U.S. land with the U.S. Forest Service. We've been working with them closely for the better part of 6 months now. And we are expecting to get a decision from the Forest Service that'll allow us to get out there and drill some great expansion targets for the known resource and to test some great sulfide targets at depth underneath the deposit. It's a very small, discrete program. So, we don't have to go through the full environmental impact assessment, which is what is giving us confidence we'll get those permits in the near term, because after we reclaim the pads, there'll be no disturbance to the area of the project.
Gotcha. And are you doing any other field work right now at Long Valley? Is there anything in process?
Nope, we're fully set on our drill targets. We know where we're going to drill. So it's a matter of getting the permits and mobilizing for drilling. It is in the higher elevation Sierra Nevada, so there is snow. So the drill program would likely start, probably in June after you get through the melt and early spring season on the project.
Okay, I asked you that beforehand, and I'm still curious. Like, what's the budget overall for exploration this year? Like, how are you sort of dividing the money you have at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we are a junior, explorer developer, so we need news flow. So whatever project gets permitted first and can deploy a drill, we'll be out deploying and drilling. And we have an option to do, we could, like we did it, we created all that value in Karis last year with, less than $2 million of drilling. So we can go out and do a very discrete targeted program at, say, Long Valley. We believe very high likelihood we can generate some great results and generate buzz, and then look to raise money on the back of that. So we can spend anything from $1 million to 10, depending on the strength of capital markets and our share price through the back half of the year.
Yeah, we'll see how we're doing. I hear the Fed is speaking in about an hour, so and people are curious what the comments are going to be like for gold and the implications, right? So it's either yay or nay. It feels like
the gold price coming off and the weakness we've seen in the juniors, speculative investors looking around to other sectors and different things. I think that pendulum will swing back. I'm confident we'll get a window for gold here sometime in 2021, and we've got the balance sheet to wait until that window occurs.
Yeah, if I wasn't optimistic, I wouldn't be sitting here, to be quite honest. So we wouldn't be doing this. So I'd be doing something else, right? But let's talk about it a little more. Like, you are in California. You have 2 projects in California. So one question that comes to mind: are you planning maybe to add another project in a different jurisdiction? It might be the U.S., Nevada, Arizona is attractive. Idaho is popping up, or even somewhere completely else. Are you looking into those opportunities?
Yeah, we are. Now, there's no plan to go spend a lot of shareholder capital to go buying projects at this point, in particular at these valuation levels. But we remain inquisitive for sure on other opportunities. California has a vast array of historic gold districts that a lot of them are owned by private U.S. citizens or open that you can look to go into, that we sort of been poking around. But really, we've got the skills, we believe, to explore anywhere in the Great Basin in the Western United States. So we'll certainly, from time to time look at additional opportunities, but they would be earlier stage. I think we'd go to exploration stage, something sort of earlier than, say, a Long Valley, to sort of build out a pipeline. I can't see us moving into anything expensive or advanced, particularly at these valuations.
No, fair enough. And you got your hands full with 2 PA stage projects anyway. So yeah, no, that makes sense. I have to admit, I didn't look into it, but like, what's your status of the U.S. listing, and how accessible are you for U.S. investors at this time?
Yes, we've got an OTCQX listing. So we upgraded from the QB last year, and we see call it a reasonable amount of trading through U.S. retail through that listing. Much like Integra Gold did, who we're watching carefully, they went to a full U.S. listing to try and get traction with a larger audience for their shares. And given we're now a pure play U.S. gold company, we think there's a good opportunity for U.S. shareholders to be interested in the name. So we are considering a U.S. listing later this year. That was in the budget. Whether we do that or not, again, will be dependent on this sort of ebbs and flows in the gold market.
No, exactly. And then for I think New York Stock Exchange listing, you need certain levels of liquidity, but also like share price as well. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, and I don't think you're interested in a rollback right now because you're still fairly tight. So,
yeah, no.
It doesn't.
The opposite in 2021, we need to increase that liquidity, increase that flow, so we don't see these. These things could trade up and down quite significantly. We don't have liquidity, so that's definitely both an opportunity and something in the cap structure.
Yeah. No, fantastic, Scott. I really appreciate you coming on. I was going to ask you about the new tagline, but we talked before. Like it is still in the works. There's not much we could talk about just yet. Otherwise, I would have asked you about it point blank. So we're going to get you back on. Maybe we'll promote the new tagline, depending on how good it is.
Yeah, well, that's it. We had great response from our contest, and we got so many great entries. So we want to pause and think and make sure we pick the right one, because there's some really good creative ideas. So
what was the okay? Actually, I'm going to ask you about it. Like, what was the funniest one you received? What was the one that made you like, yeah, I'd love to use it, but we can't? Like, is there a good one that comes to mind?
Oh, funniest. Most of them were actually quite serious.
Okay.
So there wasn't a lot of, let's call it joke entries.
It wasn't like a Bodie McBoatface situation where people get to vote
No,
on the naming a boat or something. Okay.
no, 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 no. There wasn't any. Surprisingly, it was mostly actually quite seriously taken. So, we have 400 creative, serious entries, and we'll hold
400.
one next week. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That is great feedback. So congrats on that. So I'm curious what you choose. Are you going to make the voting public? Are you going to let the investors choose, or is it going to be more of an executive decision?
That's actually good. That's actually a good idea. But I think right now the plan is that we are going to pick one internally and announce a winner next week. So, but maybe if we get stuck, we can go back to investors for a bit of a poll.
There's like a top 3 or so, right? So
Yeah.
fantastic.
Good idea.
Scott, it was great catching up with you. And I know you're in the Vancouver area, so let's make sure we'll meet for a coffee once permitted again. So
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
awesome. Same here. Thanks so much for joining us. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. This was SF Live episode 149 with Scott Trebilcock. He's president and CEO of Core Mining. They have 2 projects in California, and Scott just gave us a fantastic update on the plans and what's happening this year. Make sure to follow and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, on Twitter. Hit that little bell icon. That way you get notified when we go live with another update or company interview. We do all our interviews live, so make sure you use that to your advantage. We'll be back tomorrow with another update with another company, so make sure you stay tuned.